Hey guys, no one's talking about this, but just how good is Usman? I mean, if there was a winner on Saturday, wasn't it Usman? Didn't it make it very clear that Usman's the guy? Or he's right next to the guy? Usman, now, we're all dismissing Jack. And that tone needs to change, and that disrespectfulness, I think, as the fight gets closer, will change. But I will admit I'm doing it right now. Usman versus Islam is very compelling. And Islam versus anybody is going to ride high for a while. One thing that Islam really needs at 170, and the number one reason I'm glad that this happened and he's done at 155, is simply for parity. I mean, even when we talk about Arman Sarukian, who I really do believe deserves the fight with Islam and should have been given it, but I've already seen that fight. Or Charles Oliveira, as popular as he is, but I've already seen that fight. So I love the idea that Islam can move up. I also love the idea that we got reminded, even by proxy, but we got reminded how great Kamaru Usman is. Usman was the hardest fight of Chimaev. Usman is the only guy that clearly won a round against Chimaev. I understand that Gilbert Burns was given one, but clearly, where there was no debate. Oh, by the way, speaking of debates, the official score, 2 judges thought that Usman had won rounds. 1 judge thought he won the entire fight. It was a split decision. Do you remember that? Does your mind tell you that when you think back about Usman and Chimaev? That was a split decision. And we can see how dominant Chimaev can be, particularly on the ground. Well, Chimaev had a really hard time getting Kamaru there, but he did get him there. But he wasn't dominant down there. I mean, can we see, aren't you guys with me? Like, that kind of rised the Usman tide. Usman is in an interesting position where getting a title shot is going to take some real finesse. As far as parity goes, he's had them. As far as passing opportunities around, he's had them. As far as who should be the leader of the division for the company right now and can take that torch and run with it, it should not be Usman because of his age. But I think we just got confronted with proof that it is Usman. Now, before we get to who should get the title, that division, and I never like when we start talking about who should get the next shot at the title. When we do that, prior to a fight happening that's already been signed for the title. I don't love that idea, and you more times than not miss out. Because more times than not, they do not reserve the number 1 contender when a match is still going on. And they've done it, but in the last 2 years, they've only done it once. Do you know what fight it was? Huh? Extra credit? You know what fight it was? It was Umar Nurmagomedov coming to Sphere knowing he would take on the winner of O'Malley Merab. But in the last 2 years, in the history of the company, it's happened 5 times. The first time it happened, it was during COVID with Francis Ngannou, where they said he will fight next for the title, but DC and Stipe's title bout was still out there and ended up making Francis upset. He became number 1 contender, but now he's got to sit and wait. He didn't want to wait. I mean, just to remind you of this time. So, before we get to the whole Kamaru Usman should be next, and Kamaru Usman is great, I think that we realistically are going to have to accept that Kamaru's going to have to do something in between time. And that something is leaning towards Blal. Blal Muhammad and Kamaru Usman just can't get it right. Blal went out and told the public and even sent out screenshots for proof that before Kamaru came to Chicago, which is Blahal's hometown, before Kamaru came to Chicago, he reached out to Blal for permission. And Blal got back to him. He said, you can come, but when the fight's over, you leave. And Kamaru's like, well, can I stop him and maybe get something to eat? Check into a hotel. And Blal said, no, you will watch the fights and you will leave my town. I mean, I'm just sharing for you, like, that's good work. That's clever. And that fight makes a lot of sense. But one thing that we have to acknowledge, if those guys fight, we do have to acknowledge ahead of time, if Kamaru wins, he gets to fight for the belt. The one thing we don't want to do to Kamaru, right, as viewers and fans that go back in time, which means we now owe something to Kamaru. He's given us so many great moments. We owe him something. But the one thing that we want to make sure we pay off is that he can get a title fight. That he's not just in a purgatory of you've had them, you were injured, you're older now. No, it needs to be you're a ranked fighter. You're not treated like a champion because you're not. You're a ranked fighter, and you'll be treated like a ranked fighter that is allowed to get closer and closer, and once you've got close enough, you can, in fact, get the title fight. I mean, anything, guys, we're going to see this really glaring when Aspinall gets in there with Gane. When Aspinall fights Gane, it is in some ways for a world championship. But in much bigger ways, at least amongst us hardcore Eagles, it's going to be a commentary on Jon Jones. Jon fought Surreal. Can Tom look as good against Surreal as Jon looked against Surreal? Like, that narrative is going to be there, and it should be. That's fair. So I'm going to ask you again. Now that we see Chimaev absolutely dominate 3 10-8 rounds, 500 plus punches against 49 punches, how good, really, how good is Kamaru Usman?